Hey everyone, welcome back for episode 6 of the CLG.Faithful podcast. I'm, of course, your usual co-host Nefarious, and we've got a great episode for you this week. You know my usual co-host, go ahead and say hello.
What's up, guys? I'm Artrin.
Yep, and you know what? Let's start things off. CLG is actually at PAX East this year, so if you get the chance to head over there, do it. It's great.
Yeah, it was great. I actually got to meet Melixia.
Oh, did you?
At PAX Prime in 2015. He was awesome. My fiance was working one of the booths there as a volunteer, and he happened to stop in wearing like full-on CLG gear with his, I assume, girlfriend or wife. And so she happened to mention that I was like such a huge CLG fan. And he was like, "Oh, really? I'm Melixia. I'm the CEO of CLG.
That's awesome.
Do you think he would like to meet me?" And I was like, and she was freaked out, I guess. Sent me a text message, and I was in the expo hall and basically ran from the expo hall to her booth in the side, and it like got to meet him. He was great. We were supposed to meet up with Hotshot the next day, but I guess Hotshot had a little bit of too much to drink the night before, so he was a little hungover and then kind of was not really up to meeting anyone. So that sucked, but in the end, I got to meet Melixia, and then afterwards, they were really apologetic, and they're like, "Hey," and they sent along a sweet little kind of swag bag to my house, which was pretty sweet. I got a CLG t-shirt and a bunch of stickers and some wristbands and a pretty sweet little card from them for thanking me for being a fan for so long.
Well, that's awesome. It's always nice when orgs do nice little stuff like that for fans.
It really is.
Alright, well, you know what? I know we started this on a little bit of a positive note, but I do have to start out with a little bit of negativity. It's going to be CLG versus Dignitas. But you know what? Our drafts were pretty good this week.
They were.
Unfortunately, the name of the game for actually both games was 15 to 20 minute mark. We get aced, and then we lose turrets, and we lose dragon, and the game snowballs out of control. Game 1 was actually...
Sometimes it all really takes.
Yeah, Game 1 was actually really bad for that, because Xmithy tries to invade onto the blue buff. Excuse me, he does lose out the smite battle, but then he sticks around and ends up dying. CLG does the same thing that we always do, and they try to chase, they try to turn the fight, but instead we get the full 5-man ace. We lose 2 turrets and an Inferno Drake. It's really hard for any team to come back after that.
It kind of is.
But you know what? Game 2, right? Same thing happens. This time it's a little less devastating, and we try to recover from it. CLG does eventually somewhat get back into the game, and Darshan's trying to split push on Fiora. But, you know what? They tried to stop some recalls where Darshan was pushing for the inhibitor, but then they just get caught out, and they die. And we lose the game from there.
Yeah. I mean, watching those games, it was kind of unfortunate. It wasn't really until CLG made one big mistake that they even looked like they were losing.
Yeah, that's right, because we had early game leads in both games.
Exactly. At most times, it looked like we were kind of in the lead, or it was a pretty close game, and then all of a sudden, one bad mistake, and the game snowballs, and it's over.
And it's very unfortunate, but it does show that CLG has this mentality in which they are trying to turn fights, or they're trying to chase, and they get very greedy for it.
Yeah. We'll see that a bit today as well.
Right. Although today is a little bit of a better note. You know, don't lose 0-2 for one. But we actually come up with a win against Cloud9 in Game 1.
Damn right. Taking down one of the top 2.
Although, are you really proud about this game?
Not really. Kind of watching that game in general, I was happy, and then kind of like, what are you guys doing? Like, you have the advantage. Take it. Get it. Go in. Go. What? What are you doing? No. What? And then the CLG basically up and down roller coaster heart attack happens.
Right. And you know what? A lot of people will call out Freak for this, and he says that CLG basically does nothing for about 20 minutes. But here's the thing. He was right.
He was right. Watching that game, you were basically bored for most of the game. It was almost like watching What was it? It was Rockhat and Origin.
Hey, that shit was entertaining, okay? Right. They're not that bad, but, well...
Not that bad.
To be fair, we gave up what should have been a guaranteed first turret after what was a really good gank from McSmithy on Rengar, no less. He had a pretty good game on Rengar. But Darshan and McSmithy, they're trying to get the top lane first turret, and they should have, by all accounts, had that. And it looked like it was bad communication with the team that prevented them from getting it.
Yeah, it seemed like Darshan was trying to deny minions, but wasn't informed, because he was paying attention to denying the minions, that C9 was about to take the turret. He could have just smoked that turret once.
Right, one auto.
The Trundle Q. Yeah, and it would have gone down. Instead, he denied those minions, which basically meant that he did not get first blood turret.
Right, and then after
first turret blood.
And after that, it gets even worse because Jensen is on the Echo. He goes top lane and gets split push on, and he answers. He just goes all the way from right there where the first turret was taken, or at least I guess you just say second turret. He goes all the way there and he pushes all the way down towards our inhibitor. Now, that's one turret that CLG just didn't answer, and I have no idea why.
They literally just let him take it.
Now, it gets even worse because later on, their Maokai goes and split pushes, and they don't answer the split push from a Maokai who takes a turret.
Yep.
What are you doing, CLG?
It was a little weird. I mean, eventually, we kind of turn it around. They're like, hey, wait a minute, we have an advantage. And they go and they get Baron. And then we get an enormous power play off of that. It really brought us right back into the game. I think at one point we were down like 6 turrets to 2. And then we got Baron and got a chance to push all of those turrets back. And that evened out the gold completely. I believe it even might have given us a very small advantage lead in gold to start. And from there, we just snowballed the rest of it.
Yeah. It was a very sneaky Baron. It worked out really well.
Yeah.
And it was due to a bunch of really good shooting and team fighting focus from the team, especially from Stixxay, who came up big with the massive double shield Caitlyn.
Oh, he went ham on Caitlyn. It was great to be able to see him playing on Caitlyn as well.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Let's move on to Game 2.
Yeah.
So, Game 2, he actually was the focus of a bunch of early ganks. There was an early gank, and then there was a repeat 4-man gank after that. And he did well to only die once of those 2 ganks, but it put him super far behind.
It really did. And the second gank actually was a 3-man dive from top lane, jungle, and mid onto his mid tower. And he did manage to escape. Unfortunately, right after that, they did take the tower down. Right, and then it actually feels really bad because he's trying to sit there and wave clear on Orianna, who doesn't have his mana item. In fact, he didn't even have the Lost Chapter at that point. So he is no mana. He was having a rough time because every time he would attempt to go back to heal, he couldn't because he had to stay and clear the waves so that he didn't lose the tower.
Right, and Echo is just pushing for days, and he's got TP. He can be in and out of that lane whenever he wants.
Yep. I mean, Ray on Rumble as well, he had a great game. It was kind of scary to watch him engaging with his equalizers. So you gotta, I mean, in Game 2, you really have to give it to Cloud9.
Oh yeah, they had a very good comp in that they had Rumble with the equalizer, they had Jhin with the curtain call, and just the general long-range snipes that Jhin can provide, as well as the Echo with the parallel convergence and the chrono break. So they had a lot of zone control to really help win the game. Now, the one moment of the game that really sticks out to me is that Darshan is on Kled. Yes, they picked Kled this game.
Yeah, it was weird.
So Darshan is on Kled, and they try to make a pick onto Ray on the Rumble. And he pulls off a great equalizer. But you would think that Stixxay and on Israel and Darshan on Kled are able to take him down, right? Unfortunately, Sneaky has a very good deadly flourish that catches out Stixxay, and he dies from the equalizer. Yeah, right after that, you know what? CLG just isn't able to come back because what do? We keep trying to fight, right?
Yep.
And it's just a catastrophic loss. Behind. And then they had no answer to Jensen's Echo too, who just wreaked havoc on us.
He really did. All right, so let's move on to Game 3. This was actually a really weird draft. It was great for CLG, I think, because essentially, I don't know if maybe it was Cloud9 with some miscommunication in their draft or something like that, but Cloud9 took Jace as AD carry.
So I think Zix here actually did really well in the draft in that I don't know whether it was Zix calling Cloud9's bluff or just completely out drafting, because they picked Jace pretty early on in the rotation. But what does CLG do? They actually managed to ban out the tanks, and the Cloud9 ult in the second round bans, they ban out top lane carries. And it ends up forcing Cloud9 to taking the Jace somewhere because they don't want an all AD comp against a double tank line for CLG.
Yeah, it was great. And then, again, with all the top lane tanks taken away, they take Jace off top lane, and what do they give top lane? They give him Renekton, who we have seen in other regions played really well, but when you have such a tanky front line that CLG had, with, like, again, this great little pocket pick with Xmithy, I mean, he gets to bring out Gragas, and we all know from Spring Split 2015 what he can do with Gragas.
Oh yeah, I'm just sitting there thinking, after the second game, Zix pulls aside Xmithy, looks him square in the eyes and says, "It is time. Let them know.
Bring out the fat man.
Bring out Gragas."
It was great.
And it works really well. CLG once again gets early game leads, but then what do? We go for a skirmish, and it starts off really well. But then what happens is Ray tries to make a TP, and he accidentally TPs towards his own inhibitor, and he says, "Uh-oh." So he ends up pushing the top wave in, and this actually works out really well for him because he gets first turret for that.
He did.
Now, a little bit later on, because he's got such a gold advantage, because Darshan is playing Poppy and he's forced to play very defensive, he TPs into another skirmish in which CLG tries to make a pick, and he gets a quadra kill.
Oh, watching that, I wasn't sure what CLG was doing in that fight, but you could definitely tell that Ray was, like, out for blood.
Oh yeah, it caused a massive problem for Darshan, who, again, he's on the Poppy. Very early on, he's not going to be able to fight the Renekton, and the Renekton just gets a quadra kill? That's like your worst nightmare in solo queue.
Exactly. That means that Renekton is never going to need to leave his lane ever again.
Precisely. But Renekton also has majority of Cloud9's gold, and this means CLG, who has gained an advantage in jungle, gained an advantage in bot lane, specifically Stixxay, and they're able to use this 4v4 advantage and just apply pressure everywhere else on the map. And they have a very, very strong Baron play once they get it, and Stixxay just takes over the game.
It was great watching Stixxay go again. 2 weeks ago, we had those big Dixxay moments, and yet again, he's given a champion he's comfortable on, and he goes big Dixxay.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had a fairly clean game for what it's worth, and it was very good to see that, yes, Renekton did fall off, and we saw the double tank line shine. But we also still had our moment this game where, what do? We had a team fight, we get aced, and it looks really bad.
Yep.
Now, Xmithy does acknowledge this in the post-game interview and says that pretty much this, and the team is aware of the deficiencies, they know what their problems are, and they are working to resolve them.
Yeah, and you can see that. I mean, we had an 0-2 week last week, and that was harsh. Like
it was harsh, but that game, or that series, was also a little bit of, what are you going to do if you get aced and then they take Baron, or not Baron, they take Dragon, and then they take first turret and then the second turret? Don't get aced.
It really showed that they are starting to kind of pick up on that and making smart play decisions. So that's really
it's
good.
Still very inconsistent and erratic.
Yeah. Again, we saw this week with the consistent play and the great play on Darshan and Stixxay. They really stepped up their game compared to last week, because last week they definitely weren't playing very well. And then we also had a game where Xmithy, he wasn't terrible on Rengar. I still don't want to see him play it, but he is improving on his Rengar game.
I feel so bad. He has a good Rengar game where we're just like, well, he didn't feed, but
exactly. That's a good Rengar
It was a
game.
massive improvement on him, and you know what? The continuously changing patches is good for us, I think.
I think so as well. If the meta shifts just a little bit in the way of kind of improving that ADC champion pool, like of the top tier champs, I think we'll be able to do well.
Oh yeah, and then we know that Xmithy has brought out the Gragas, which means teams will have to consider that now too as a pocket pick.
They are, yeah. If they see that play like that, I mean, he had some great ults in those team fights. It's just singling out people to be able to get exploded. It was great. So it's another ban that people are going to have to worry about next week. And I mean, there's only 2 weeks left. So this can be a huge point. If we can 4-0 next week, that puts us in a great running.
Next 2 weeks, but yes.
Next 2 weeks.
But I know we want to talk about the standings. We'll do that in just a second. But if we're going to give credit where credit's due, we also have to give blame where blame is due. And I think this week, that blame belongs to Huhi and Aframu.
Absolutely.
I know Huhi is, just very recently, he just tweeted out saying that, he had a very poor week. He has acknowledged it. He is aware of it. And I'm sure Aframu is aware of it too. He's making a lot of very obvious mistakes, especially in laning. And this is something that we're not used to seeing. Perhaps not this split, but in general.
Yeah, and also just, I'm not sure if it's Aframu or if it's the players themselves, but there's a lot of useless chasing. Where, okay, we're down 3-4, but that guy's kind of low. Let's try and get a pick, even up 3-3, and then they just get collapsed upon because they're baited in. So let's just hope in the next 2 weeks that some shot calling gets a little cleaner. Maybe we'll have a little better decision making to when you've lost a team fight but made the enemy team retreat enough that you can safely disengage. Maybe don't engage again.
Take what you get and just back off. But let's talk a little bit, very briefly, about the standings and how we stand in regards to playoffs, because there's only 2 weeks left. Now, this week, at the beginning, Cloud9 beats Liquid, Phoenix 1 beats FlyQuest. Then, unfortunately, we lose to Dignitas, and then TSM picks up a win over Envy. Immortals goes and defeats FlyQuest, and Phoenix 1 defeats Echo Fox. Coming in today, Cloud9 loses to us, and then Dignitas, surprisingly enough, they pick up a win against Echo Fox.
Yeah, they actually solidified 7th place for them this week, which was great.
And as of right now, Immortals is 1 game up on TSM, and they look like they're doing pretty well. So it is entirely possible that Immortals beats TSM. So let's look at the standings, right? So TSM and Cloud9, 1st and 2nd respectively, and then Phoenix 1 is sitting in sole possession of 3rd place at 9 and 5. But keep in mind, we have a 2-0 over Phoenix 1, which is super important.
Especially coming up, because if we can do like some miraculous 4-0, we could potentially take over that 3rd spot. Even if Phoenix 1 happens to do like a 2-2, that would put us tied with them.
Correct.
And what happens in the tiebreaker is they first go to your wins. And guess what? We've got a 2-0 over them, so that breaks the tie.
Right. Now, we are currently tied in 4th place with FlyQuest, and no, not Liquid.
Yes.
Liquid would love to be in 4th right now.
Liquid would love to be in 4th place right now.
And then, interestingly enough, this is where it gets super interesting, because we are 7 and 7. Again, same as FlyQuest, but Immortals 6 and 7 right now. They currently look like they have a good chance of beating TSM. Echo Fox 5 and 9. Very bad week for them, but we are playing Echo Fox next week.
We are, so it gives them a chance. We did beat them previously, so we are up 1-0 on Echo Fox right now. So if they can pull out some upset victory on us, that would put us at 1-1, and they also get the +1 on their wins, bringing them even closer to having a tiebreaker on our hands.
Right, so that is a must-win. And then Envy and Liquid are still duking it out for last place right now.
Yep. Oh, man. And, I mean, in semi-CLG news, Doublelift joins Team Liquid? I don't know.
Right. I mean,
I think that surprised a lot of people, but, we'll see. Hopefully Liquid doesn't get auto-relegated.
Well, there's no auto-relegation. It's the promotion tournament.
Oh, that's right. They got rid of auto-relegation. It's all promotion tournament now, so that's helpful.
Right, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So essentially, these coming couple of weeks, CLG really needs to step it up. We're playing Echo Fox and FlyQuest next week.
Both are winnable matchups.
They are winnable matchups, and against FlyQuest, we have to beat them.
Absolutely.
If we do not beat FlyQuest, then we basically lose our possession of 4th place.
Correct. And as for the final weeks, we are up against Immortals and Envious. Now, we need to be very careful and not think that any of them are free wins. We have to play hard.
Especially Envy, when they're going to be, if it's tight at the bottom, getting that positioning to play the lower seeded CS team,
right,
the Championship Series team, is absolutely important.
Correct.
Because as we've seen a lot of the time, when the promotion tournaments come up, it's that top seed Championship Series or Challenger Series, team that does just completely upset.
All right. So I think we spent a fair amount of time on League. You know what? Let's talk a little bit CS:GO.
Absolutely.
We finally have our 5th.
We finally do have our 5th. It's fantastic. And he comes all the way from Australia. His name is Ricky. Ricky, I think, is how he pronounces it. I thought at first it was Ricky just because I'm Canadian.
I kind of like Ricky.
I like Ricky a little better as myself. But yeah, he comes from Renegades, a former League of Legends team. I believe they might still be in the Challenger Series. But yeah, he comes from Renegades. He's a really talented opper, and the great thing about him is that he has the pocket pick of being a rifler, in the sense that if we don't have the eco to be able to buy double ops or even just one op, he can pull out that AK or the FAMAS or the M4 and actually do really well with it.
Right. So I'm actually going to read you a quote from I'm a Pet, who is our CSGO strategic coach. So we decided on Ricky, that's what I'm going to call him. We decided on Ricky because we're looking for a consistent and experienced talent. Ricky is shown to be a strong rifler and playmaker in practice. In addition to rifling, he will remain our primary AWPer, and Ricky is a great addition to the team, and I'm super excited to work with this roster to show that we can be a strong force in future LAN tournaments.
Yeah, it's great. So one thing to note is that because we do have 2 people who specialize in op, Kusta is going to be the primary opper, with Ricky being a secondary opper, which is great because Kusta is an amazing flicker.
Right. Well, we've also got FNS and 2 other members of the team. So what?
Yeah, we've got Cutler, we've got Kusta, we've got Ethan, we've got FNS, and now we have Ricky. It's a really well-rounded team, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on. CLG playing Misfits. It's part of the ESL Pro League, and so it was a great game actually to watch. We play the first map. It's on cash.
So how does Ricky do?
He actually does amazing. This map was really close. There was a lot of heavy back and forth between the 2 teams, but Ricky was basically like, "Hey guys, look, I'm really good." He actually gets a 3K with an AK in round 29.
Wow.
So this sets us up. It's round 29. It's 14-14. Next team to win basically puts themselves on match point with just 1 round left.
Classic CLG heart attacks.
Yeah, exactly. So he puts us up 15-14. I mean, the Misfits ended up winning the next round to take us to OT, but this is just a little thing for you guys to know. Ricky went 33-22, so 33 kills, 22 deaths, with an average of 99.8 damage per round.
Damn.
So he was averaging 1 kill a round, essentially. It's like you can round that up, that 0.2 damage. Great. So Misfits took CLG to OT. It was CLG 3-0s the first half of OT. It was great. Misfits actually does come back, bring it up. They get the 17th one. It's 18-17. CLG on that final round to stop it from going to yet another round of OT. Boom, we get it. Kusta gets a really great duel against Sean Garris. Sean Garris plants the bomb. He makes the wrong move. Kusta's got his eyes just to the little bit of the left of him. He's got his aims down. And then he sees Sean Garris pop out. Boom. He does a quick little flick. Like I was saying, he's an amazing flicker. Takes the shot. Boom. CLG wins that map 1.
All right. I mean, that's a great start for Ricky. And, he's already a true and true CLG member if he can bring us the heart attacks in his first ever series.
Exactly. If he's bringing us the heart attacks, that's perfect.
So, tell me about map 2 on Inferno.
Yeah, map 2 is Inferno. So, as everyone knows, Inferno, well, some of you might not know, Inferno did get reworked just a few weeks ago. So, the team, they definitely looked a little bit rough on this one. Sean Garris he really stepped it up for Misfits. I mean, this guy, there's a reason that he was part of the Players Association and kind of helping try and get the CSGO scene a little more professional. He had a great moment. He was great, but you know what? FNS had a sick 4K on the second half pistol round. We're talking he's got USPS silenced. He's running around. He gets 4 headshots. Insta kills. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wins the round for CLG. It was great. And then, I mean, again, Kusta, amazing flicker. Round 26. If Misfits wins, that's it. We're done. Kusta gets a 4K, and he even gets a collateral kill. Yeah, so that means that his op shot went through someone's head, into someone else, double kill, 2 birds, 1 stone. It was great. But like I said, it was 15-10 at the time. CLG ends up coming back a little bit, but the last of it comes down to a 2-on-1 clutch. Sean Garris takes it out and wins it for him 16-12.
So what are the current standings then for the ESL Pro League?
Yeah, so it's Pro League Season 5 North America. CLG is currently in a 3-way tie for 5th. With that win, with that 1-1 they got, they actually are now tied with Misfits and Optic Gaming in that 3-way tie for 5th with 15 points.
All right. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I think we can expect some pretty good things from Ricky.
I think so. I think with Ricky on the team, it's really going to help kind of round out the team. And with FNS in there doing some shot calling, I think in-game leader-wise, I think we're going to be good.
Yeah, just as a quick reminder, Papa Hayes did step down, but
he did.
I think he'll always be there for us if we ever need him.
I think so too.
Now, the CLG.Red, the ladies did not play this week, so no updates on them.
Unfortunately, no news on them. I believe they were at PAX East, so that's pretty awesome. Or Esports Arena, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on it. Their Twitter is a little kind of sketchy right now. But yeah, they're having some good times. There's some great posts on Twitter. And so let's move on to Hearthstone, because I think this is one of the first times we have more than one Hearthstone player playing.
It's also sadly maybe one of the last few times we talk about Hearthstone. Because unfortunately, CLG has released a post stating that they're going to be releasing their Hearthstone members soon.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like because of Hearthstone kind of dwindling down, maybe it's because of Blizzard. Excuse me. Maybe I'm not really sure what the exact reasons are. But yeah, Hearthstone team is being released. So we first off just like to thank we're gonna butcher his name. It was Hoey, Zixo, and Surrender. Really like to thank those guys for their time on the team. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get down to it. This is One Nation of Gamers. It's the major circuit. It was happening in Boston at PAX East, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately, only one game was actually streamed, so we have very little info on the rest of the games. I couldn't find anything on what cards or classes were actually played in the teams. So let's start with it's Hoey. So he beat up Level Up 3-2 in the opening rounds. He was then up against Eloise, who was an actual tournament favorite, and ended up losing 3-2. It was a pretty close match from what I could find, but he did lose it. So that sent him to the losers bracket, where he faced off against Soul Stealer, who he actually beat 3-0, so it was pretty good domination. He then played against Hemi Powered and won 3-1, and then he stomped Firemancer 3-0. However, he then faced off against Frozen, who he got beat pretty badly, 3-0, which knocks him out of the tournament, but he finishes 25th, so that's pretty good considering how huge the bracket was.
All right, what about the rest of our players? How did they do?
Yeah, so we got Zixo here. This is actually one of his first matches, was the only one that was actually streamed. And he played up against Zeptis, where he won 3-0. Zixo got to play Jade Druid in round 1 against Zeptis' Dragon Priest. He won that pretty handily, beating him with 22 health left and finishing him off with a Ragnaros. In round 2, it was actually a complete flip. Zixo was on Dragon Priest, and Zeptis was on a Jade Druid. It was pretty close, but Zixo did end up getting bested, with Zeptis having 1 HP and 1 armor remaining. It was crazy. Round 3, Zixo was playing Tempo Mage versus a Paladin. It was actually a really close match. At 24-17 HPs remaining, Zixo got all the damage he needed with his final card pull and wiped him out. And then in round 4, Zixo was on Dragon Priest yet again, and Zeptis was on his Paladin again. It was a close match, but Zixo ended up winning with 22 HP left, so a pretty handy defeat considering they start with 30. His next matchup was against Rainism, where he ended up losing 3-2. So that sends him to the losers bracket, where he ended up meeting Darth Beer, who he beat 3-1. He then 3-0'd Dr. Hippie and Frostbitten. Quite the pronunciation right there. Unfortunately for CLG, he then meets up with Surrender, another one of our Hearthstone players in the bracket, who he loses 3-0 to. So that means Zixo finishes 25th. So again, good finish. And then we'll move on to our last guy, Surrender. So he started his bracket versus Unseptium 7, who he 3-0'd. He then lost 3-0 to Rage, knocking himself into the losers bracket, where he beat King Dominius 3-1. He then beats Julian 3-0, and then he gets 3-0'd by Powder. So this sent him up against Zixo. Oh, sorry, he 3-0's Powder, which then sends him up against Zixo, and as we just said, Surrender 3-0's his teammate. Then he went up and he plays against Mercury, who beat him 3-0, unfortunately. That means that Surrender finishes 17th. So he finished just outside of the top 16, which makes him money off the tournament. But I think he'll be okay with getting a free pass to PAX East.
All right, then. You know what? So just as a closing note for CLG's Hearthstone, now this will be their second to last major event, if I understand correctly. The last event will be the SXSW major.
Yeah, so the South by Southwest major, that is happening next weekend, actually. So it kind of comes up and goes pretty quickly, unfortunately. At the end of the month, the CLG will be releasing the team.
Yeah, so once again, hopefully that the CLG boys can make a great last set of plays, or last set of games for their final tournament.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Super Smash Bros. Gamer Expo VS Versus Edition is happening in Honolulu, Hawaii. So I really hope the boys are having a good time out there and they're getting some good weather in Hawaii, because they've been there for a few days now, so that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now the tournament is actually still ongoing right now, so we'll give you as much as we can, but we'll cover the rest next week.
Yeah, so because it's in Hawaii Standard Time, they are 3 hours behind us in Pacific Standard Time here. So they started around 3, but unfortunately they don't seem to be keeping updates on Smash.gg very well. So, I mean, that's probably just, Hawaiian. They're kind of laid back, pretty chill guys. So we'll give you a start on this. So for Wii U singles, we got both Void and Nakat there. They're representing CLG. Void started his bracket against Theiz. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. And he 2-0'd him. Then he played against Kenny Poo. I love that name. Who took a game off him, but eventually Void went 2-1. Nakat then started on the opposite side of the bracket, so that means they can't meet up till the finals. Which actually, he ended up going up against RWBY, who he 2-0'd. And then he faced off against Sean DeKing, who he also 2-0'd. This basically means that as long as Void and Nakat win their next 2 games, they will be in the finals together.
Awesome.
Against one another. Yeah, well, that's pretty sweet.
That's actually the best possible thing we could hope for, so you know what?
I mean, yeah.
Well, let's hope for a CLG finals.
Yeah, it's awesome. So then we'll bring into Wii U doubles. So again, Void and Nakat paired up like always. These guys always crush it. They started off their day yesterday beating Beast 24-7 and Danger 24-7, 2-0. Then they beat Brigade and 2-0. And once again, they beat Dark Musician and, wow, this guy's name is Zizax, They beat him 2-0. And then the winners final, they also beat False and War 3-0. So they're waiting on the False War outcome, who got kicked to losers bracket, to be able to do grand finals. And then I know he dabbled a little bit, but they have melee singles listed on Smash.gg, and they have NACAT listed in melee singles. So that would actually be really interesting to watch. But again, unfortunately, we haven't been able to find any stream for it. So we're kind of just going with the tournament brackets there, and hopefully they update it so we can kind of give you guys a heads up next week.
Yeah, and just as a note for the Overwatch fans out there, we actually haven't been able to find anything about the CLG Overwatch team playing. So if there's anything that we've been missing, let us know.
Please do. We'd love to be able to cover Overwatch. I mean, I enjoy playing the game just as much as everyone else, I imagine. And I'd really like to be able to watch some competitive Overwatch where I can cheer on CLG.
Absolutely. But we actually have something a little bit different now to talk about. H1Z1.
Yeah. So that's the King of the Hill version, isn't it?
I believe so. At any rate, CLG will be participating in the H1Z1 Fight for the Crown tournament. That'll be going on very soon. And actually, 15 teams will be competing for a $300,000 prize pool.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know?
That's pretty good for a game that hasn't really been as big, that huge.
Right. And what CLG's done is they've been scouting talent for the past few weeks, and they formed an 8-man team. And on the 8th of March, they announced their roster of... excuse me. Excuse me about that. Yeah, so the roster is Flamehopper, Grimy Bear, Nightwalker 1H, Da FPS, and Kelzy.
Yeah, so you guys actually might recognize Grimy Bear. He's a CLG streamer already, so it's kind of awesome that they got to use someone who is already with the CLG brand as well in the H1Z1.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to one match with 5 of our players competing against 70 other players. That's insane.
Whoa, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, so we'll give you an update on how that turned out.
Yeah, so I guess that's everything we got this week, eh?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty good week for CLG.
It's a pretty positive week for CLG. That's awesome because, I mean, it's always great, especially, you know, when the league team's a little down, it's always nice to have the other teams kind of propping them up and just being awesome.
Absolutely. So with that, this is Nefaris. And
this is Artron. Peace out.